Welcome back to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine McNulty and I bring light to the darkness of grief. So today, this is part 2, video number 2 of the early grief series. So that series is a 5-part series plus an introduction video. So if you haven't watched the first 2, I want to encourage you to go back and do so. If you want to start here, I'm not going to tell you that you can't. So in this video, early grief, this is what you need to know. Now, as part of what I do, I want to bring light to the darkness of grief. I want to make sure that you believe and you have hope that you can get through grief. I want to give you support that you need along the way. And I want to remind you always that you can be happy again after loss. It doesn't mean that you are having a sentence of your own where you're destined to be miserable forever. You can be happy again. So let's talk in this video about what you need to know. So in early grief, when you've lost someone that you love and you're hurting and you're devastated, this is where your grief process has begun. You are now on the grief journey. It's something that none of us can really prepare for, even if we know that there is a pending death. And a lot of us get really caught off guard. We really just don't understand the magnitude of the grief that we're going to experience until we're actually in it. It's really just the way it is. So if you are feeling overwhelmed with emotion, overwhelmed by all the thoughts you're having, by all the feelings that you're going through your mind, don't feel bad. This is definitely part of the process, and you can and you will get through it. Now, every time I open my videos, I say that I bring light to the darkness of grief. Now, if you are early in your grieving process, you may not be able to see that light. You may not even know that that light exists. But I want to encourage you that the first thing that you need to know is that you can get through this, that you can be happy again. And one of the main reasons why I create these videos is because I didn't have anybody to tell me that I could get through it, that I could be happy again. And I remember thinking to myself later, I wish someone had told me that. I wish somebody had told me that there was a path, that I could get through my grief, that I could be happy again, and that the loss of my son was not going to end me. I just thought that I was going to be miserable forever. And so I want to start out by saying the first thing that you need to know is that you can get through this. And I am here with you every step of the way. So what else do you need to know? Okay, so I have 5 things in this video to talk to you about. First one, the reason why you hurt is because you love. One of the very important things that I learned early on in my grief is that the reason why you grieve as deeply as you are grieving right now is because you love the person that you've lost. So there is an equity between grief and love. If you have a lot of love in your heart because this is someone who meant so much to you, who was so dear to you. In my case, it was my son. Maybe for you, it's a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a friend, a child. If you love them so much, that amount of love that you feel for them is going to be equal in intensity to the pain that you're experiencing. So if you are deep in pain, if you are feeling completely overwhelmed by everything that's happening to you right now, know that that pain is because of the love that you had for them, because of the love that you carry in your heart. And so sometimes people are surprised by how much they hurt. And I tell people, why are you surprised? You love them so much. When you lose them, of course there's going to be this much pain, this much suffering, this much sadness, everything that you're going through. So know first that the reason why you hurt is love. Second one, and I think is so important, is that the intensity of the pain that you're feeling right now will not last forever. I promise you that. It feels like it will. It feels like it can be all encompassing. But the thing about grief and the thing about the grief journey is that this is a season that will pass. This is a time in your life. This is something that you absolutely have to go through. There is a process to get through it. But it is something that is temporary. You will not feel this much pain forever. So in the meantime, I need you to hang on to that promise, because it's hard to believe early on. So I want you to hang on to that promise and know and trust me when I say that you will not feel this much pain forever. And so it's just part of the process. And there isn't anything that can immediately take that pain away, as much as we would want that to be the case. It really can't. But if you go back to the first one, if the pain that you're feeling is equal to the amount of love that you had, would you want to lose that love? Would you want to lose the love? Would you give up the love in order to give up the grief? Maybe that's a question you can ask yourself, and leave me a comment below. Would you give up the pain of your grief, but also have to give up that love? Let me know what you think about that. So the third one is that if this is new, if you are early in grief, you may be in shock and you may be numb. And there are stages that we talk about, the stages of grief. There's emotions and feelings and things that you go through. And they're going to change over time. So some people early in grief will come to me and say, but I don't feel anything. I haven't cried yet. What's wrong with me? The grief process is such that early on, your mind has to process what's going on. And because you love that person so much, you may very well be numb in the beginning and not feeling anything. And that is your mind's way, your heart's way, your body's way to protect you through the grief process. So in time, the numbness will start to fade and you'll start to feel actually a little bit worse, potentially. So the pain is going to come, the sadness is going to come, the emotions are going to come. If you're numb right now, don't worry. You're on the path. You're okay. You're going to be okay. Right now, the thing to do is to begin educating yourself, which is what you're doing by watching this very video. So I want to commend you for that. Number 4, you need to know, these are the things you need to know about grief. Grief creates change, and this is not the time to fight the change that's happening in your life. You have to try to embrace it. And there's so many elements of change that we can talk about as we go through. Change initially because you didn't expect them to go, whether you didn't expect them to go so soon or you didn't expect them to go at all, and maybe it was an accident that happened to you. You had expectation for a future that is no longer available to you. Change. Your future is now going to be different because your loved one has passed on. And there's so many other elements of your life that are likely going to change that we'll go through in other videos, or you can find in my other videos here. But the thing to know right now is that there is going to be a lot of change. And it's a lot easier if you just know that there's going to be change and you embrace the change rather than trying to hold on and fight the change. This is the time to learn to be a little bit flexible. And then number 5 is that this process takes time. You have to be flexible, yes, but you have to realize that this is not an overnight process. And it's going to take you time to move through your grief. And when other people tell you you should be over it, you should be moving on, tell them that they're wrong, or I can tell them for you that they are wrong, because this process takes time. This is not something that you move through in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months. Most people, realistically, it takes you a year, 2 years, sometimes more, to even get to a place where you're starting to understand everything that's going on, because there is just so much. Now, for me personally, I was stuck for a couple of years because I didn't know what to do. And so I think my own grief process lasted a lot longer than maybe it should have. And again, this is a reason why I do these videos, is because I want you to heal more quickly, right? I want you to learn what you need to know so that you can process and you can heal and you can come to terms with who you've lost and the grief that you're experiencing. That's what this process is all about. And there's some wonderful quotes. Earl Grolman says that the only cure for grief is to grieve. So you have to go through the grief process. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Unfortunately, you have to go through it. And another way to say that same thing is that the only way out is through. And I've seen t-shirts that say that. So I just want to remind you that you are not alone in this process, that it is a process, that it does take time. It's not going to happen overnight. And if this seems daunting to you, I want you to know that you're not alone. I want to encourage you to get a copy of my grief journal, because it's going to help support you along the way. And you can find all the details down below in the description to this video. Obviously, I want to encourage you to subscribe, hit the bell icon. There are new videos that are coming out at least every week, oftentimes more so, and that bell will make sure that you're notified. If there are any questions, please feel free to leave me comments below. Let me know how this experience is for you. And if you want to talk to me directly, I want to encourage you to send me an email at griefinspired@gmail.com. Until I see you again in the next video, take care of yourself, replay these videos as you need them, and know that you are not alone in this process. Bye for now.